All right, Ruben, we're going to go to our second question here, which we receive from Odis from Facebook Messenger, is how he reached out to us. And his question reads, does omnipotence means that God knows who will be saved? Dr. Blue, I'm glad I'm talking to a doctor because I need some help with clarifying these terms. Can you help us with the word omnipotence, maybe clearing that up? And then also, what do you see from the Bible regarding his question?
Thank you so much. Well, God certainly is understood as omnipotent in the Bible, but omnipotence means that God is all-powerful. And I think the question is actually relating more to God's knowledge. And so the word that we want here is omniscience. And that means that God is all-knowing. So I would like to take us to Romans chapter 8 and verses 28 to 30. This is a wonderful passage which can help us to understand God's actions and his foreknowledge towards those who are in a saving relationship with him. So start reading at verse 28. It says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, so that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified." So some Christians take this to mean that God has predestined everyone who's going to be saved. And what they mean by that is that they try to argue that God's determined everyone who is going to be saved. But when we look at this verse, especially in verse 29, it says, "For those God foreknew, he also predestined." So God's foreknowledge, he knew beforehand who was going to freely choose to follow him. So yes, God knows who's going to be saved. He knew it in times in eternity. And it says that he is working out our salvation based on his foreknowledge.
That is beautiful. And I appreciate that distinction there, that the omniscience of God does not negate our free will, but he just he knows ahead of time what's going to happen, but he does not, that foreknowledge does not force us to act in any particular way. We still have to choose God for ourselves. I appreciate that. Dr. Tapp, anything else to add?
You know, I just want to go back to what we referenced earlier in 2 Peter 3:9. It says, God is not willing that any should perish. So God doesn't predestine anyone to be lost. Although, as Dr. Blues has already stated, because he is omniscient, he knows all. He knows ahead of time who will be saved, who will be lost, but yet he still desires for all to be saved. And I want to add one last thing from Philippians chapter 2, verse 13. The Apostle Paul says this, "For it is God who works in you, both to will and to do his good pleasure." What that says to me is that God is actively taking the initiative for my salvation. And the mere fact that I have the desire to want to be saved, I can't take any credit. It is God working in me through the power of the Holy Spirit. As the poet Francis Thompson said, God is the hound of heaven. He is relentless in his pursuit for my salvation and yours.